Time now for Back Pages Tonight, right here on Sky Sports News. We're bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are Andy Dunn, Chief Sports Writer for the Daily Mirror and the Sunday Mirror, and Craig Hope, the Daily Mail's Chief Football Correspondent. Welcome along to you both. We'll hear from you shortly. Let's quickly run you through the back pages as we have them so far. So this is the back page of The Telegraph. Bigman fury as Earps quits. Following Mary Earps' shock interaction in retirement, the paper also carries an image of Jack Draper. 6 British players making it through to the first round of the French Open singles across men's and women's draws for the first time since 1973. Now, Earps' decision to call it a day as far as England is concerned is also on the back page of the Times, as is the transfer development surrounding Matheus Cunha after Manchester United met the agreed terms with Wolves for the forward. You can see Cam Norrie pictured there after his fantastic victory over Daniel Medvedev on the red clay of Roland Garros. Now, back page of the Mail focuses on Manchester United. Pray someone else wants you. Ruben Amorim's brutal put down as he kicks Garnacho out of United. And back page of the Sun looks like this. Enzo's sweet nothing. Enzo Maresca will not get a bonus if Chelsea win the Conference League. Maresca in combative mood about how his side, and indeed he, has been assessed this season. Well, let's start with a story that clearly goes beyond sport, the traumatic incident at the Liverpool Trophy Parade that has really rocked the city. 65 people were injured when a car drove into pedestrians. 11 remain in hospital. Thankfully, their condition is stable. Andy, let me start off with you. You've covered football in the Northwest for a long time, and you will have, I'm sure, heard what Jurgen Klopp had to say at League Managers Association Awards. I mean, he's a man who, spent, almost a decade at the football club and seemed to intrinsically, innately understand not just the club but the city and what this incident will have done to the soul of the city. What did you make of what he said?
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on when he said he gets the city as well as the club. This isn't about the club, of course. This is about the city. This is about the people. I'm not far from where it happened, where those dreadful events unfolded last night, yesterday evening. And there's still a sense up here of shock, of sadness, of horror that a day of such joy could turn like it did. You mentioned then about the victims who are in hospital. We had that. There was a sense of tangible relief, and all our prayers are with them. But there was a sense of relief that news came through that hopefully all those remaining in hospital will make a full recovery, because that's the most important thing here. It's not about any other thing apart from the fact that they make a full recovery from this dreadful incident. What Klopp refers to about the city and the soul of the city that you mentioned there, the fact that it happened on such a day. I grew up in Liverpool, and I've seen many, many parades. I mean, Craig saw a parade in Newcastle quite recently. We all get parades in Liverpool. I'm not saying it's special, but it's part of the culture of the city as being a parade. My father, would never stop going on about the parade when Liverpool won the FA Cup in 1965. It was the first time they'd won the FA Cup, Roger Hunt scoring the winning goal, and he reckons there was 1 million people there. And then, of course, the year after, 1966, when Everton won the FA Cup, there was a similar amounts of people on the streets of Liverpool parading in front of St George's Hall. In 1986, Liverpool and Everton had a joint parade after the FA Cup final. And that feeling in the city, and I'd say it's not unique to Liverpool. Craig saw it in Newcastle recently. We've seen it in many cities. It's part of English football heritage and culture, and that's what makes this whole thing so shocking. I've read a couple of stories today, understandably, stories saying the wisdom going forward of large-scale gatherings, anywhere really, in relation to this. But you know what? What a shame if that would be the case, because these parades, I say, part of the culture of the place I grew up, Liverpool, part of the culture of English football, European football, world football.
Just want to have a look at the back page of the Mail Craig, given you're their North East football correspondent, and on the right-hand side here, the piece by Lewis Steele. I'm just going to quote you what he's quoted from Jurgen Klopp. He said, "Yesterday just showed the two faces of life, the most beautiful face for a long, long time. The parade was incredible. The mood was incredible. From one second to the other, everything changed. There are more serious things in the world than football, and thoughts and prayers go to the injured people and to the families, of course. It should have been one of the greatest days in the history of the city." Again, Jurgen Klopp's ability to just strike the right tone in terms of this conversation, in terms of really understanding the moment, the poignancy, but also the togetherness of the city, and how things switch so very quickly. The two faces of life. He's a man, isn't he, Jurgen Klopp, who, you know, despite being someone who wants to, you know, his head is stuffed inside of football, right? He loves football. He was, you know, he was a brilliant Liverpool manager with all the trophies that he won. However, he managed to really consider this story in the right light, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. But even before this story yesterday, you'd seen Jurgen Klopp's presence around Liverpool, around Anfield in the days before. And what other manager, having only been gone 12 months, could return and be met with such a reception and with good grace and with such humility and humour and everything else? And in a strange way, I think it's kind of comforting for the people of Liverpool that Jurgen Klopp has been on the scene in the past 48 hours, that he was there at the stadium. And his words today, you know, I think they will bring comfort to people. And when you touch on there, you know, the two faces he talks about, well, my own consumption of this story last night was evidence of that. I was away for a night away with my wife and my three little boys, and during the day, early evening, we'd watch the pictures come through on X of this wonderful trophy parade, and it evoked memories of just 6-7 weeks ago when my wife and my three young boys were on the streets of Newcastle. They were doing the same. Andy quoted there all of the trophy parades they've had on Merseyside. We've never had one on Tyneside in a generation, but my wife and the three boys were there, and it was so real in those pictures during the day yesterday, and it brought back some of those memories. And then later on in the evening, I'd looked at my phone on X and I'd seen this story developing, and I couldn't tell my children, I couldn't tell my wife. I was shocked, I was sickened by it, and I was distracted all night. And it was actually only today in the car that I told them what had happened, because I wanted to have a bigger picture. It was truly shocking. It really was to see those images. And I think the reason is because it's so real. We've all been to football events, and invariably you are in mass crowds amongst people, and it was just that reality of it, that it could have been you, it could have been me and Andy leaving the ground, it could have been our children, our brothers, our sisters, our wives. And the good news, it seems a strange phrase to use, but there was good news overnight. There was good news that it wasn't worse than what it looked like it could have been originally. So I think that is the one positive to take from it. But also as well, to touch on something Andy said, parade days are the best of days. That day in Newcastle 6-7 weeks ago, I've never seen a happier, more joyous collection of people, friends, neighbours, strangers. It was wonderful. You don't do away with them. Yes, you try and learn lessons as to why this has happened, and we count our lucky stars that it wasn't more serious than it could have been. But don't do away with these days. They're brilliant. They really do bring people together. And I think an incident like this will just bring not just the city of Liverpool together, but the whole football community too.
Yeah, and I suppose also worth saying, given the fact that, I mean, you're talking about Newcastle there, Craig, that in all of these competitions where we've seen new winners, or winners for the first time in a long time, Newcastle being one, Crystal Palace being another, Arsenal women beating Barcelona in the Champions League final as well. You know, why shouldn't they have a parade, especially if you're not used to having one? You know, it should be, you know, an ultimately joyous day. OK, I'm sure that there will be more developments on that story. We'll, of course, keep across them here on Sky Sports News for you. Let's turn our attention to Mary Earps and her decision to retire from international football just 5 weeks away from England's defence of the European Championship title, because they won in such memorable, dramatic circumstances on these shores in 2022. Andy, this is on the back of both the Telegraph and the Times. The Telegraph page, Vigman furious, Earps quits, because I think, you know, this is almost as much about the reaction as it is about the decision. But how shocking do you find this in terms of the timing primarily? Because England have Hannah Hampton, but not much else in their squad in terms of international experience right now.
Well, the shocking thing about it, David, is not so much the timing, or that's not ideal, but it's the idea, the underlying idea is that why Mary Earps has decided that she's going to quit international football is that she can't get her starting place in the team. I mean, that is the fundamental sort of idea that people are looking at that. And there's some very, very strong opinion pieces in tomorrow morning's newspapers about Mary's decision to retire at the age of 32, a young age to retire. I know she says, I'm going to leave it to the younger brigade. But listen, for a goalkeeper, early 30s is no age at all. That's the thing. It's this idea. It's a broader thing, isn't it? This idea that, well, if every international player, every England player who thought he or she was not going to get a starting place decided to say, well, OK, well, I won't play in the future, then the international teams would be in a right state. What I would say is that, it is a personal decision. Myself and Craig both cover international tournaments. It's a long time away. And if Mary Earps thinks that, listen, she's not going to be playing any football, if she's only going to be there as a backup, if she doesn't want to be away for that length of time, away from her family, then I would respect that, because I've seen players go away and have a fairly miserable time. However, the broader point is this idea that, well, you know what? I mean, Mary Earps, Queen of Stops, she was called. Someone today, I can't remember who it is called the Queen of Strops, because basically she can't get in the team, so she's not going to go. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but we should also remember, don't forget, how brilliant she has been for England.
Yeah, we just saw there in the back page of the Guardian that she had been sort of mulling over, thoughts about retirement for 12 to 18 months. There clearly has been some thought. I don't think you can call this any kind of knee-jerk reaction, but it had been clear that Sarina Wiegman had spoken about the goalkeeping situation before and had said that Hannah Hampton was a little bit ahead of Earps, and that was just last month in the battle to be England's number one. This piece from Susie Rack, Mary Earps makes indelible mark with England and leaves big gloves to fill. Yes, not just big gloves to fill, but Golden Glove in 2023 in the World Cup, FIFA Best Goalkeeper in both 2022 and 2023. What will England miss here, aside her goalkeeping talents, Craig? Because clearly she's a bit of an icon. She's sort of shown her cultural power as well, given what happened when Nike failed to produce a replica women's goalkeeping jersey for the World Cup and led a petition, 150,000 signatures, and got that one turned around.
Oh, she does have that star quality. One of my male colleagues went over to Paris not so long ago earlier this season, and PSG wanted to put her front and centre of the coverage, the new women's facility there. So no, she's a star. One thing I will say, David, is I would like to hear her side of the story on this. It was something Andy touched on there, and the battle journalistically now ensues to get that first interview with Mary Earps. That really would be a great get. But yeah, I would like to hear her story, because my reaction on the face of it, my instinct would say that this is a selfish act. That you said there, David, that it's not a knee-jerk decision. Well, I'll tell you one thing, if she'd been told today she was the starter at the Euros in Switzerland, she wouldn't have retired. So I think it is a knee-jerk decision based on information given to her that she's going to be number two. But you're a goalkeeper. You're one injury, one suspension, one bad performance even away from getting back in the team. So to walk away on a point of ego, on a point of principle, for me, seems short-sighted. One, in the bigger picture of what a team needs and what a country needs and our teammates and the squad, but also our own personal situation as well. We've seen so many times at tournaments these little twists of fate. So to that end, I think it is a knee-jerk situation. I think it is one she probably will come to regret if the current number one is injured in the first game, or for whatever reason. I don't like it, but at the same time, I would like to hear her side of the story. So, yeah, there goes the challenge to all journalists covering the Women's Euros this summer. Go and get that interview. Or
indeed, maybe Mary Earps does it herself. Maybe she does it on her own social media. Maybe she decides to publish herself, as is often the way, right? Athletes are their own publishers these days. Well, we will be very interested to see if she does comment any further on the situation. All right, gents, thank you very much indeed for the moment. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Mirror, as Enzo Maresca bids to add another European trophy to Chelsea's collection, and this one, the Conference League, would complete the set. You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Andy Dunn, Chief Sports Writer of the Daily Mirror and the Sunday Mirror, and Craig Hope, who is the Daily Mail's Chief Football Correspondent. Let's move on to transfer news. We know that we've got the start of this mini window from the 1st of June to the 10th of June. And, of course, already, it doesn't matter if you're involved in the Club World Cup or you're not, there are Premier League clubs who are starting to make moves, and it looks like Manchester United, the most concerted of the lot, with Matheus Cunha set to join. Manchester United agree terms for £63 million forward, says the sports section in the Times. And also, as far as this one's concerned, Andy, it feels like, you know, United very keen to maybe just sort of make it very clear they're backing Ruben Amorim here with a significant purchase, but done in a way that they're being told how to do it. Wolves are saying to them, you've got to do it this way, you've got to meet our terms. Do you think we're going to see more of that as the window progresses?
Well, maybe, but what's interesting, you're quite right, Wolves are adamant that the terms of his release clause are basically you pay a fee now and that you pay the next two instalments by the end of the 26-27 season. Now, in some cases, I guess, you know, you're paying for longer than that. In fact, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has already referenced the fact that I think they've got about £300 million in instalments going out this summer for the likes of Anthony, for the likes of Jadon Sancho, for the likes of Mason Mount. So actually for them, for Wolves to play hardball and say, listen, you've got to pay this by the terms of the clause. I believe there was some negotiation, but I'm led to understand that it will be sorted within 2 years, the full £63 million, presumably with any add-ons, will be paid. I like the statement from Wolves, but I also like the statement from Manchester United as well. I think it was hugely important that they got this Cunha deal done very quickly in the wake of what happened in Bilbao. I think it sends a good message to Manchester United fans at the end of a season that's had very few good messages. They've got a player who's really, really coming into his own, 26-year-old Brazilian, big future ahead of him internationally. And he wants to join Manchester United, despite the fact they've got no Champions League football, no Europa League football, no conference football, no European football, full stop. It just shows it's a boost to United that they still have, which they always claim that everyone wants to join Manchester United. I'm not sure everyone does, but they are still a big draw. And Cunha's a very good player. He's a big signing.
Yeah, it does appear a significant move. Maybe it might just change that mood music around Old Trafford. Right, let's move on to the Telegraph. Well, you know, it's a now bigger tournament, quite literally a bigger tournament of the Club World Cup, because it's been expanded from the 7 teams you normally compete to much more than that. And Ronaldo eyes cameo in Club World Cup. And Craig, he's been linked with Botafogo because, of course, his own club in the Saudi Pro League didn't qualify. But, you know, he will want to play a part in this, won't he?
Well, it wouldn't be a show without punch, would it, as my mum used to say to me. Yeah, I'm fascinated by the Club World Cup because I've got no idea, as I sit here now, how I actually think about it and feel about it. And I don't know whether by the time it comes round I'll be so desperate to consume some football that I'm staying up in the middle of the night to watch matches and I'm reading everything around it, or if I'll pay it no attention whatsoever, it'll just feel like a glorified set of exhibition games. If you're asking me here now, I suspect it'll probably be the latter. But it'll be fascinating, and Ronaldo's presence, if this does come off, however unlikely that may feel, would certainly add a level of intrigue to it.
Craig, can I just stay with you to talk about Paul Mitchell, and we saw it there at the bottom of the back page of the Telegraph, but in the Mail, Newcastle sporting director leaves club after just one season as Premier League side released statement on abrupt exit. Just give us your take on this one, Craig.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the timing of the news on the eve of such a big, important transfer window for Newcastle, but I'm not actually surprised by the news itself. This has probably been the writing's been on the wall since Mitchell first came into the club last summer. There was reports of tension immediately. I think he rubbed up staff and players the wrong way during those introductory meetings. It was hoped that some of those tensions would thaw as the season went on, that relationships would improve. But the fact that we've arrived here today with the surprise timing of the news, certainly that Mitchell's going to go without ever having made a significant first-team signing, would tell you that all wasn't well. And if it's not, it's probably best to move on.
Yes, OK, fair point. OK, let's just come to Andy on, how important this window is for Newcastle United, because I think a while ago when they were taken over, by Saudi Arabia, people just thought they would be splashing the cash, but obviously Newcastle back in the Champions League now, Carabao Cup winners, they want to strengthen while they're strong. How pivotal do you see it?
Well, it's a huge window for two reasons. Yes, they need to strengthen, but clearly, as Eddie Howe's frustration was clear towards the end of the season, they also need to keep hold of players who are absolutely day in, day out linked with others. And, clearly Alexander Isak is the prime example of that. That's the important thing. Listen, I think Newcastle have got a very, very, very good squad. A couple of additions, and I think it will be an excellent squad. So that would be great. But keeping clearly the most essential players in that squad together, keeping the likes of Guimaraes there, keeping the likes of Isak there, that's clearly the most important thing in this transfer window. 1 or 2 additions. Don't forget, David, they do have to still comply with profit sustainability rules. That is always the caveat to any dealings there. Any big club's going to do this summer. Yeah,
absolutely right. OK, let's get on to one of the European finals. We've already had the Europa League final, Champions League finals to come. But in the meantime, Wednesday night in Wrocław in Poland, it's Chelsea against Real Betis. Back page of the Sun. Enzo Sweet nothing. Enzo Maresca not set to get any kind of Euro bonus should Chelsea beat Betis, Craig. And this is a man who, I think, you've seen the sort of, really assertive side to him recently, because he's, wanting to show that he is worth what he's offering, but also that his young squads aren't really meriting of the criticism that's been fired their way.
These stories sometimes leave me cold when we talk about bonuses for already very rich men in cup finals, because ultimately the bonuses are usually rather negligible anyway when it comes to the grander scheme of their pay packet. But Enzo Maresca won't care about that. There's a trophy here, and given how forthright and on the front foot he was post-Forest, and we won't repeat what he said, some of the language there, but I thought, no, good on you, go into bat for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it, so he won't care about not having a monetary reward for winning a trophy tomorrow night. This is about status, it's about putting down a mark, and he might just come out post-match if he does win and crow once again, and if he does, it'll make good viewing, so good luck to him. No, I didn't mind at all how he conducted himself post-match on Sunday.
Andy, we've got roughly about sort of 45 seconds or so. Back page of the Mirror, means to an ends, obviously on Enzo Maresca and Chelsea. If he does win, and they've obviously finished top 4, we've talked about Nuno Espirito Santo, Vitor Pereira, Arne Slot as manager of the season. Does he deserve a mention in that conversation, do you think?
Oh, absolutely not. No, not even close. Listen, so I understand what Craig's saying, and I like his spikiness. But listen, he's finished 4th with a £1 billion squad. I don't care how old they are. They've spent fortunes on players. They've finished 4th. They haven't exactly lit up the Premier League, and obviously the Europa Conference League is the 3rd tier down. Will it save their season? By the way, yes, it will, because as Craig says, it's a trophy, and when you lift that trophy in a big game in a fantastic stadium against quality opposition they've got, if they win that trophy, it will be a successful season for them. Should it be amongst the elite managers getting the awards tonight at the Alameda Net? No, I don't think so.
All right, Andy and Craig, we will leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your company on Back Pages tonight. We'll see you again very, very soon indeed.